Hey class. Okay, on the very first day of school, even before school at orientation, I gave you an envelope that contained a lot of material that you're going to need for class. One part of that, which you should have in your notebook, is the AP Writing Lab Report. See it? Okay. It should be, let's see, 3 pages long, and I'm going to go over that with you right now. You are juniors and seniors in high school. You need to know how to do a proper lab report so that when you get to college, you'll know how to do one. I don't care if you're majoring in art. I don't care what you're majoring in. You're going to do a lab report because they're going to make you take some kind of science. So go ahead, pay attention, get these out and read it with me. If you need to pause right now, go ahead and do that. But get these reports and read it. AP Writing Lab Reports. Number 1, lab reports count as a test score, okay? They don't count as your labs. They count as a module test, a grade. They must therefore be done correctly and thoroughly. All reports should be typed in New Times Roman or Times New Roman 12 font. In the upper left-hand corner, I want your name, the date, the class title. So you'll write in the upper left-hand corner on the computer, Sarah Jane Sutherland, January 26th, 2015, Biology 2, Anatomy and Physiology. All right? Now, even though you do your labs with a partner, your labs are to be completely independent. They're not going to be copied from your partner. So even though your partner has the notes, I don't want her notes turned in for you. Does that make sense? One time when I first started doing this, they thought, I had a boy and a girl team, and they thought that since they had to do their labs together, one would do the cutting because she didn't want to touch anything gross. The boy would do she would do all the writing, and so he turned in a copy of her writing. That will not fly. Don't do that. Write your own thing. Your work is your work. Remember what you've done. Lab grades will be deducted 10 points for each day late from due date. Meaning, if they're due February the 2nd and you do not turn it in, it's 10 points a day, not 10 points a week, like a day that we're at co-op. From February 2nd to February 3rd, that'll be 10 points off. You've had a whole week. I don't make you do anything else the week you do dissections. All you have to do is do this lab report. Please do your very best not to miss dissection days. This is why you're in this class. I mean, I know I'm a really great teacher and like pretty hot, but you know, I want you to make sure that you know the material and you know how to do labs and dissections. Your lab partner will depend on you being there. If you're not there, that leaves somebody stuck doing this by themselves. And I will tell you, it's hard to do all the dissecting and then turn around and start writing by yourself. Do not use Wikipedia as a source site, okay? Wikipedia is not reliable. I don't trust what they have to say. Don't do it. When you're writing a report, avoid using pronouns. I, she, he, we, it, they, them, meaning like we talked about dissecting the circle around the top of the cow's eye. You don't want to say, first I cut into the cow's eye, then I took some scissors to it. Don't write that. Say the sentence you want to say, then take out the pronouns. It's very clinical, but that's how it needs to be. Instead of doing what I wrote, what I just said, write inserted scalpel 1/4 of an inch into cow's eye. Use scissors to make circular cut around edge. That's exactly what you did. I want you to remember that when you write these lab reports, try to write it for a blind man. That if you read it out loud to him, he could imagine what you're saying. He could imagine what you're seeing. But if your words aren't good, and if they're not proper, he's not going to understand. So make sure that you're very thorough. Always use correct terminology. People, please hear me on this. This happens every year. I stand up here and I preach this every year. I know I told y'all about the time that I used the wrong word in a class that I had when I was in nursing school, and I really got wailed at over it. So, for example, when you're talking about the eye, don't say a bunch of gooey liquid came out. Say, aqueous fluid noted. That makes it clear. Do not copy and paste from a website or CD. Use your own words, and believe me, I know you kids. I know how you talk. Use your own words. I don't want copied words from the book. I don't want plagiarism of any sort. Be very thorough. Give me the long answer. I want details. Remember, act like I'm a blind person. I don't know what you're talking about, but with your description, I could see it. Use graphics and pictures when and if at all possible. You should have your camera or your cell phone with you when you come to do dissections. I want pictures, and I don't want you to do your lab report and then send me pictures via email. I want you to print the pictures out on a piece of paper, cut them out, and place them on your lab report. I want this to look really good. All lab reports are due the following Monday after co-op. Now, so if we do a dissection today, today's the 26th. If we do a dissection on the 26th, that paper is due February 2nd. And if it's the next day, then you're going to start at a 90. And let me tell you, I'm tough on these, so please, you don't want to start at a 90. This is a huge part of your grade. You better be all in with me. I'm not saying I'm any more important than any of your other classes, but I am saying I expect your work to be proper. Next page. Let me see if I got that. Yep. Format. Format for laboratory report. Performing labs, experiments, and making observation is a very important aspect to the study of science. But equally important is the manner in which you record your details. Your lab report should cover all the important information related to the experiment and observation. Your lab report should be done in a very neat format. I don't want stuff all over the place. The following is a discussion of the major headings in your lab report. Include all of your headings in caps and bold. So, when I am writing my objective, it's going to be capped and bolded. My materials will be capped and bolded. My procedure will be capped and bolded. The objective statement is a statement that explains the reason you're doing the experiment. Why are you cutting open a cow's eye? Not because you're some kind of sadistic, mean person that just really wants to dig into dead flesh. You're getting in there so that you can better understand the eye and see the amazing way that God created us in His image. Man, I'm telling you, the eye is so amazing. And if you look at all those little characteristics, read in your book all the text about how the eye works. What's his name? Ken Ham has a really good video called The Seeing Eye. Crazy. It's good. I'm telling you, if you can go to your library at your church, or I've got it at the house, if you want to borrow it, let me know. It's really, really good. So this objective should be about 3 sentences long. Note, one of those sentences in all things, it should be to glorify God. That should be one of the main reasons that you're looking up, that you're doing this dissection, is to see God's glory in it. Materials. Make a note of everything you use. Did you use the tweezers? Did you use the scalpel? It's a scalpel number 22, by the way. Did you use whatever? I mean, anything that you used, write it down. Write down that you used a cow's eye. Write down that you used a styrofoam plate. See, I want to know all this stuff. Now, the analysis. The analysis includes the organization, and you should organize this prior to the experiment, but some or all of the following information may need to be included. Your observations. What did you observe? They're what you observed with your senses during the experiment. Remember our senses, well, we're not going to go into balance. So, touch, sight, smell, hearing, and taste. Please don't taste this cow's eye. But sometimes you smell it so much that you taste it, and that's gross enough. Ugh. So, examples of possible observations are changes in physical or chemical conditions. When you opened the eye, did anything clot or fall apart? You can note that typically the lens is clear and jelly-like, but because the animal has died, it's clouded over and hard. It did that in the preservation process. At times, drawings or sketches may be needed to further explain your observation. What's really cool is you have the opportunity to take pictures. In your observation, you'll write, let's see, when you're writing about the lens, okay? At the end of that statement about the lens, go ahead and write 2.1 or 1.1, figure 1.1, picture 1.1, whatever. At the end of this sentence, when you're talking about the lens, that way, on the pages on the back where you have taken a picture of the lens, you can show how it was cut. You can show how when it opened up, how it was oniony and layered inside and fibrous looking. This shows what you're talking about, and it gives me an idea. So, data. Any information that is used to determine the results of the experiment. It's usually classified as data. It's very important that the data collected during the experiment be properly identified and that correct significant index digits can be used. Do not leave numerical data unsubstantiated. Equipment and instruments must be read to the correct number of scientific digits. Now, in this lab specifically, you probably won't be doing as much of this because if you were looking through a microscope, you could say, I looked through a microscope at 40x or 100x or 400x with an oil balance. So, I mean, you could write something like that, but in this case, that's not really the issue as far as the eye goes. Tables. In many experiments, the amount of information included in your observation data will be extensive. Tables are very efficient means of organizing information. Sample tables are provided for some experiments. All information should be clearly labeled. Wherever there are several calculated values, they should be organized in a table. This too could be just part of the pictures that you take, okay? If even, you may not include a table because you're not comparing one thing to another. Then you have your conclusion. Do not forget your conclusion. The conclusion section of your lab report should thoroughly describe what you discovered during the lab's experiment or observation. In other words, it's a synopsis of your results. You also need to include what you did in the lab related as to what's been discussed in class and use scientific terms. This must be the conclusion at least 3 to 5 sentences long. What I want you to do is tell me, break it down on what you learned today. Break down, conclude that by seeing the inner workings of the eye, it's better and we can appreciate at a greater scale how intricately God created us. Go in that direction. Tell me the things that you learned. Conclude it. Bring it to an ending. Graphics and pictures. Although it's typically added into the tables analysis section, you can add extras at the end of the report. Don't worry about doing it in the tables section. No, take that back. Your pictures and things, put it in before your conclusion. Makes more sense. Next is your last page. Singular page, not at the bottom of conclusions. This is your resources page. In your lab report, you will not only be using your book, but you'll having access to the media that you wish, minus Wikipedia. You must list the resources at the end of your report. So when you go home, use the knowledge that you've gained. Use more knowledge on top of that. First thing, let's say you visited, I'm making this up, so don't go there, http humananatomicaleye.com. Then at the very top, you put, with your resources, http humananatomicaleye.com. Reference the book that you used. If you used this book, write down The Human Body, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, 2nd edition, authors Shannon and Eunice, they're at the bottom. Then, this is important, put the page that you got the information off of. That is really, really important. So put the book and the page. Don't just do the page that the lab's on. Go back where you note the lens and you wanted to read more about the lens. So like on page 296, you would write Human Body, Fearfully and Wonderfully Made, Shannon and Eunice, and then write page lens, page 296 or whatever. Then at the bottom, write Randy Sutherland, because I've given you a lot of information. Include me as your resource, because I've been a pretty hefty resource on this. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you need a copy of these lab reports because the ones that you have are somehow mysteriously missing, you need to get one. So either go ahead and copy a classmate's, or you can't contact me this week to do this. I can't do this for you. You should have it. If you don't have it, you're going to have to contact a classmate for it. Sorry. But that's it. That's your lab report. Go ahead and pause, rewind, take it, just read it as you go, but have this information. I'm telling you, I'm really about it. So go ahead and take care of that for me, and y'all have a good one. See ya.